Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to Expand Your Practice by Finding Your Purpose with Tammi Brannan. My name's Lori Coonan. I'm the Chief Learning Officer for the Heritage Institute. And today we are in webinar format, which means we are recording the session today. So everyone is intentionally muted. And we ask that as we do the workshop today or the webinar today, that if you have questions, please put them in the chat and then send them to the host. And we are happy to bring them up for Tammi to address or us to address if you have questions for us as well. What I noticed is we have a great spectrum of new faces, names. This is cool. I am super excited for this event today. Great job, Tammi, for bringing all of these new people. I'd like to announce one thing about our calendar is the annual conference. We have moved it to October. So mark your calendars for October 22nd and 23rd. It's going to be an in-person event and location is going to be determined a little bit later. So keep watching your emails and posts because we will be announcing it in the near future. So now I am going to turn it over to Rod to introduce our guest speaker today.
Tammi was introduced to us by Joel McGriff, who's one of our HCPs. And basically the introduction to me was, okay, I've been working with trying to put all this stuff together. She really helped me to focus in on what my purpose is. And not only that, to help me get beyond that to, what my messaging is. So Tammi, we've had a chance to talk after that, and we have a chance to talk to Joel. And like I said, the picture, a lot of people, when they think about finding their purpose, which is what we've kind of aimed this at, there's a lot of people that just focus on finding your purpose and that's it. And so I'd like you to explain not only what that means and how important that is, but then what goes beyond that, because the rest of the story is not only you want to have your purpose, you want to be able to attract those people that are your ideal clients. So it's a two-parter here. It's not just about you. It's about not only you, but then who you're going to attract. So you want to take it from there?
Yeah, absolutely. That's so well said. Wow.
I listen.
Yes. Also, you're my people.
Yes, right.
It's really important to remember our purpose, as you mentioned, is only one part of the equation. The other part of the equation, of course, is God, and then it equals impact. So your purpose plus God equals impact. And it's that impact that we need to bring into our thought. In fact, I was working with a client just yesterday, and she was really struggling with some of what her purpose was asking her to do. And I reminded her, it's not about you. Sorry.
Right.
It's about your people. And so it's this question of your people that's so helpful to us. It's orienting and it's motivating. We're not here for us. We're here to express God's light in a way that nobody else can. But it's not just to anybody and everybody. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many of us. Each one of us has a unique light, and we refer to it as our purpose. And that purpose is meant to shine on certain people. So in marketing, it's super important to identify who are my people and speak just to them. Unlike typical marketing, which is, ooh, bring them all in. Because when we're working with our people, and you just identified it, their memory for what we say is high. They are arranged, they're designed to actually receive our message. They intuitively get what we're saying. So if we're trying to speak to people who are not our people, there's deer in the headlights.
Yeah. And I described, I was talking to one guy, and I described it. How do you think about that when you think about, who's your people? Who is it? He goes, when my receptionist, he said, somebody else always answers the phone. When they press the button and say, so-and-so's on the line, do I go, cool? Or do I go, oh, man?
It's a really good indicator.
And that's, it's like, yep, that's probably true. And he goes, I know they're doing the same thing. I mean, they're there because they have to be. So,
right,
yeah.
Right. And we don't want that. The other thing that's really cool, so not only is our communication very, very effective, so to your point, it's easy, it's effortless, and it's energizing. Our people inspire us
Right.
to do more. So it brings in this concept of stretch, which typically we have to have a coach to stretch. We go to the gym, we try new diets, whatever. It's very painful typically to stretch. But when we realize that when we're working with our people, they're naturally inspiring us and motivating us to do new things because we love them so much. We're willing to stretch for them.
Yeah, it's interesting. Lori and I, a lot of times when we're working with clients, we often start with what's called the alignment conversation. And that's designed to, what is it that you really want to get? What are your desired outcomes and how are you going to measure them? How much important is it? But it's a two-way conversation because it's for them to understand whether or not they want to work with us, but also for us to identify whether we want to work with them. And there's been times when we've had these conversations, said, this is really great. Let me find somebody that,
Yeah.
because it's just not going to happen. So do you want to describe a little bit about how you get to that purpose? I mean, what's the process look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I believe that there's a spectrum of possibility when you're trying to understand your purpose. You can do it kind of on your own. And I certainly did that back in 2006. That's how the blueprint process came to be, because I was trying to find it on my own, of course, with God's help. That is doable. You can do that. And then, of course, there's working with someone too to help them use their objectivity to help you identify it. So it's just, there's a spectrum there and you can choose what you're interested in. But finding your purpose, I actually would use the same qualifier, and that is what brings you energy. So I'm going to use you, Rod, as an example. We just talked about this. You were just talking about the difference between the webinar Zoom format versus a meeting format. Webinar Zoom format, you don't get to see everybody.
Right. This drives me crazy.
Yes. And you could probably say that when you're in a meeting format and you get to see everybody's faces, it brings you more energy. Would you agree?
Yeah. And even with speaking, I've noticed somebody asked me that question about how big a groups have you spoken to? And I've spoken to a couple thousand. Wasn't that cool? Well, not really, because when you're up there and you got spotlights and stuff, you can only see like two people in the front row. And so for me, that's like this, and that wasn't very energizing.
Right. So you've just identified what I refer to as an aspect of your blueprint. And it's in knowing your whole blueprint that you're able to identify your purpose. Now, this is an interesting thing. People, I'm going to define purpose here.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
People, there's a lot of opinions and definitions about purpose. The way I describe purpose is it's why God put you here. We also look for your cause, which is what your purpose is meant to do, what it's meant to accomplish. Now, if you're here to do a purpose, to achieve a cause, you should have everything in you already to do that purpose, because God's smart like that. He's not going to give you a purpose here on earth and then not give you the tools you need to enact that purpose, nor the people you need to achieve that cause. So keeping an eye out for that equation is super important when you're looking for purpose. Purpose plus God equals cause. Impact, my people. So as we are thinking about purpose, remember that it's something you should be able to do 24/7, 365 days a year. Doesn't matter if you're by yourself. In fact, I say purpose has to happen with you first.
Right.
You do it internally first, and again and again and again and again, and you do it for others. And the more you make that cyclical rotation, the better you get, the more proficiency you gain. So he's given you all the tools you need. He will also bring you all the opportunities you need, the resources you need, and the people to make sure that that cause occurs. That's why it's so important that it's purpose plus God equals people, impact, cause. Any questions about that?
No, but I think my observation is if that's not true, if you're doing what you think your purpose is and it's draining you, then you're probably doing what you think you should do rather than
Ah,
what other people are telling you or what your job is or something like that. But it's not really your purpose. It's just your vocation.
great point. Often in my work, people will ask me, am I going to need to change my job?
Mhm.
Once I find my purpose, do you think I'll need to change my job? And I always say, no. You may choose to, that's different, but you don't have to.
Right.
Purpose, again, is something you can do, and you can do it while you're doing the laundry. And I try to, because again, that's why we're here.
I don't, but go ahead.
So earlier, we were identifying an aspect of your blueprint, not your purpose, but an aspect of your blueprint, which is that you really like to see that face. You want to have that face-to-face interaction, that real-time interaction. That's a value that is something that I find in a person's blueprint. But when I'm studying a person's blueprint, I'm studying 4 categories, of which value is one: skills, passions, and purpose. I study them all, and then I identify purpose. So purpose is that thing that when we study your whole blueprint, we can pull back and be like, oh, I see why you were designed. You were designed to do this thing with God so that you achieve your cause with your people. But you can do this thing no matter what your vocation is.
Right.
And here's the really, really cool part about knowing your purpose as an entrepreneur. When you know your purpose as an entrepreneur, you're able to do that thing while you're being an entrepreneur. So my job is as a blueprint process practitioner. That's my label. Lori, right? Lori earlier said her label was the education coordinator, right? Something like that for a heritage.
Chief Learning Officer. Mm-hmm.
Chief Learning Officer. But does that tell us who Lori is?
No.
Many people here are working in the financial industry. So they might refer to themselves as a financial coach, advisor, strategist, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Is that who they are?
Yeah.
So if I'm putting out my messaging in marketing, and if I'm doing my work as a blueprint process practitioner, I look just like all the other blueprint process practitioners. How does that help my people find me? So one of the things we must do as entrepreneurs is not just talk about what we do, but who we are. And that's why knowing your blueprint, your purpose is important. So your people can see you and they'll be drawn to you, not because of what you do, but because of who you are.
So walk us through a little bit about how the process works with you.
Okay. I am the type of person who likes to know people really, 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 really well. I don't like surfacey relationships.
I wouldn't have known that.
Right. And guess what? That's a part of my blueprint.
Yeah.
That's a value in my blueprint. So you can see that value helps me achieve my purpose, which is to help others identify their purpose so they can give of that value, reach their community, and achieve their cause. I just shared with you my purpose and my cause statement. So that orients my whole life. That orients my life as a mom, as a blueprint process practitioner, as a person on this planet. Everything I'm doing towards that end. So in order for me to know my purpose or yours, I have to get inside your brain. So another one of the values that's in my blueprint is when people trust me enough to go deep with me. So they're sharing, they're kind of opening the chest and they're sharing with me one-on-one every single week who they are, how they're reacting to things that are happening in their life, whether personal or professional, spiritual, it doesn't matter. They're sharing with me their doubts, their fears. This is the greatest honor of my life. And it is absolutely essential that someone feels that way with me. And to your point, Rod, if they don't, they need to find another blueprint process practitioner. because that trust is essential for me being able to hear their stories. And really what I'm doing when I'm hearing their stories is I'm listening for blueprint items, values, skills, passions, purpose. So that whole first half of the process is me listening to stories. It's like we're best friends and we're sitting down over a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And I get to do that for months on end with someone. Oops. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, but you're kind of breaking up for a little bit.
I see that. Well,
Okay.
if that happens again, I'll jump onto my phone. Anyway, so it's super important that we have that trusting relationship, because the whole first half, like I say, is me sifting through their stories to collect blueprint items, identify blueprint items. And this goes to a key principle of blueprint philosophy, which is you came ready made.
Mhm.
So you're not trying to go out and be more. Instead, you're recognizing what you already have, the God that is within you, so you can then intentionally use those things. So the whole first half is research. The second half is application. How do we take now these beautiful 100 things? I usually find around 100 items. How do we take those and move those into everything you're doing?
And you mentioned two things that I think people want clarity on. One is every week. So it's a weekly call for how long?
1 hour.
An hour. Okay, so an hour a week is what this is talking about.
Yeah.
And you talked about other blueprint practitioners. And I know you have several that work with you, including Bill, who used to work with us. I mean, he was one of our
Members.
members. Well, and he does, as we did events early on, he was one of the guys with Devin Doherty that would help be the course mentor. So Bill Hughes is in part of the group. How many other people besides you are in your organization?
12.
12. Okay. Okay. Because that part of that is matching up right personalities. I mean,
Absolutely. And when you get onto the Blueprint Process website, and this I think is key for the point that we're making here too, you want to make sure that you as an entrepreneur are putting out these messages consistently, so that when someone is checking you out, and let's just admit, in the financial world, trust is key, isn't it?
mhm.
Just as much with me. You guys have to have the trust of your people. Well, think of yourself as a consumer. How do you gain trust in someone who's providing something to you? And I'm not talking about a new roof. How do you gain trust in someone who's providing a significant service to you? Just, you don't have to answer that question, but think about that.
Mhm.
How do you gain trust? Do you gain trust for someone because of the years that they've done it? Do you gain trust because of the credentials on the wall? Or do you gain trust because of a feeling that you get from that person? There's some inexplicable something that's happening every time I talk to you or every time I listen to you that makes me feel genuinely interested in what next you have to say. That's what your people are doing too. They're out there going through social media, scanning the website. They're trying to find you. They don't know it's you, but they know they need something and they're avidly looking. Well, if they don't find you and they're genuinely your person and they feel this need within them, they're going to land on another financial advisor just because they don't have a choice.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you're starting today to put messages out there that, like I said earlier, aren't just what you do, but who you are. So if you get on the Blueprint Process website, blueprintprocess.com, and you click on practitioners, you'll see that they're there. If you click on an individual name, it'll open up into some more information about them, not about the tool.
Mhm.
It's not about the tool. I've had, same with you guys. It's not about your financial strategy, your financial knowledge, right? Can I trust you to care more about me than your commission?
Yeah.
It's huge.
Okay, well, you talked about months and stuff. How long does the process normally take? I mean, how long when are you working with clients, or is it kind of like with us? It can be forever. It may not be as once a week. So how does that work?
You actually bring up a really good point there. If we're looking at identifying your purpose and helping you apply it to your life, achieve your cause with your people, it's an ongoing project.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do have 2 stages. So the first stage is a little bit more intense. It's once a week for an hour, as I've mentioned. That depends upon the person, typically 6 to 8 months, not 68 months, 6
6'2".
to 8. I'm exposing a little my blueprint. That if you watch kids movies as I do, that came from Madagascar. All right, so 6 to 8 months to go through the regular process, and then we get into the graduate program, and this is only 2 times a month, so it backs off in consistency, and not in consistency but frequency,
Mhm.
and get together once a month on Zoom. And we also do trips. So this last year we went to Spain, and next year we're going to Norway. So the goal of the program is to do what I mentioned earlier. When you start to message to your people, they start to come to you. They start to collect. You start to grow your community. This is key. It's with your community that you're actually able to do your purpose and achieve your cause. That's why it's so important to message, so you can attract them. When you get them, and yes, most of them will be clients, but some of them could be other people as well. Because again, doing your purpose and drawing your community is not about you growing your business. That's not the goal.
It's a natural consequence. I mean, or whatever.
Yes,
but not the purpose. Yeah.
it is a consequence. It is an effect. It is a result. Yes, but it's so different, as you can imagine. If you go into your messaging thinking, I'm doing this to grow my business, to get another client, that has a very different feel to messaging that says, I am expressing the light of God that is within me to help you in whatever way that I can help you. And if you want to come along with me on this ride, let's do this together. And oh yeah, by the way, I have this thing over here. And so it's
Go ahead.
No, you please.
Well, it just came up in a workshop I was doing with some nonprofits, and I made the comment to them. We talk about mindset is everything. From what's one of our themes from the very beginning, mindset is everything. And my question for them is, are you building a relationship to get to the ask, or are you building a relationship to help somebody fulfill whatever their passion is, to go? And and that really resonated with. I could tell on that one. I could see people, so I could tell on the screen the people going, oh yeah, because that's two different mindsets.
Yep.
My feeling is it's like a dog smelling fear. They're going to know it if you're there just to get the money. I mean, that's the other thing that you've kind of really hit on here that I love is we talk all the time about, if you like somebody, you're probably going to like their friends. So introductions are much better than anything else that you can do, And so, but now that's a natural consequence if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing with the right people, because they're going to want to share, that's just human nature. They're going to want to share something that they found that really works for them with their friends, who are probably people who have a lot of the same attributes that they have.
Yeah, it's a very good point, which again makes it imperative that you're attracting your people. Because if you're attracting people who are not your people, then that's just going to perseverate. It's just going to keep happening.
Get more.
Yeah, exactly. So in fact, we talk about the mindset being an interesting point. If you hold negative thoughts in your brain, it's like a mental bed and breakfast. It attracts more negativity because of the reticular activating system that's in there.
You'll find what you're looking for. Yeah.
Yep. So it's that conscious trading out. And so you brought up a really good point when you said, are you going for the ask or are you going for the give? Our brains, this is very interesting. Our brains actually cannot think of an ask and a give simultaneous. So it's actually quite helpful to know that.
Mm-hmm.
If you find yourself thinking unintentionally about an ask, you can remember, nope, I'm here to give. And it's amazing the transformation that comes over you when you ask yourself, what am I wanting to give through
Right.
this message, this webinar, this meeting? What am I wanting to give? You also brought up a good point about passion. If you talked about it as, am I here to get, or am I here to help someone achieve whatever they're passionate about? Isn't it awesome to think that through this identifying of your purpose and using your purpose to message to your people, you'll be attracting people who are passionate about the same things you're passionate about.
Right.
And then getting a group of people together like that, they're all passionate about the same kinds of things. The lid is off in terms of what you and your community can do. So this really changes our framework for our life. Instead of just, as you identified earlier, instead of me just finding my purpose, now I'm raising it to finding my purpose and actually pursuing it, achieving it. And then it can go even further to say, so I attract my community. And now becomes the question, wow, what could I do in this world in my lifetime if I had this group of people around me?
And it's fascinating, you know, I've talked to, I don't know how many thousand professionals, and a lot of times I'll ask the question, why did you get into what you're doing?
Mm.
Rarely do I hear because it's the most money I can make. Every now and then you hear that from, you know, somebody's just getting started, right? That's it paid the most. But one of the things I hear in almost all the professions is I want to make a difference in people's lives.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, you know, in the financial services world, the next thing you hear is now I'm spending all my time with compliance. But, you know, so, but that really, I think that connects with what you're saying here is a lot of these people that I've talked to, a lot of these professionals, they're looking to make a difference in people's lives. That's kind of the big picture. It isn't narrowed down to as far as what you're talking about in terms of the people that you want to work with and do all this stuff. But it really is a driver for a huge percentage of the people that I know that are in the industry.
All right. So that brings up another question then. How can I stand apart? If all of us are selling virtually the same products or the same service, and all of us want to help others, how do I stand apart? So have you heard, it's actually quite annoying. Have you heard the concept? Have you heard the concept of asking why 7 times?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so annoying when someone does that to you. However, it gets you down to the truth, the bedrock, or as I refer to it, your blueprint. So if you're out there today and you're wondering, what's my purpose? I know I want to impact the world. I know I want to help people. I feel that within me. That's lovely. But don't forget, you're one of a kind. So if you know that a lot of people around you also want to help others, the question is how? Why? When? Where? Ask yourself those, who?
Right.
Now, when I was thinking of the question who, immediately the thought that came to me is typical marketing demographics. Don't do that. Typical marketing demographics are this age range, this amount of money. Ugh, that doesn't help.
Yeah.
I, in fact, had one financial advisor say to me, I never want to work with dentists again. Never.
Because they're all the same, right?
Yeah. And she knew that that wasn't logical, but she'd had it up to here with a few of them and had predetermined that old dentists are like that. So what we do, and you guys know this, is we instead identify what are some characteristics of people you really love being around. Let's build your community on that. And so asking yourself these questions, yes, I want to help people. Yes, I want to make an impact on the world. Yes, I want to leave the world a better place. Start asking yourself the question, why? Where, when, how, who, with what? What do I have? I mean, there's so, just those, however many questions, where, why, however many those were, those questions alone will help you on that one end of the spectrum that I was mentioning earlier. When you go to find your purpose, you can do it on your own. You can ask yourself those questions. It's almost like you're being a scientist, stepping outside of yourself and looking back and try to see yourself objectively. It's not easy, but you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw you, Lori.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not easy.
Yeah. It can be very confusing
Mhm.
because I think one of the biggest reasons, and Lori, did you have something to say actually on that?
No, I was just going to say simple but not easy
Right.
is kind of the mantra. You know, it
Yeah.
sounds super simple, but when you really try to do it on your own, it's not as easy as it looks.
Yeah, but it's a worthy endeavor. If you guys are listening to this right now and you're feeling like, ooh, I'd like to try it on my own, actually, you'll be revealing a blueprint item. There's a blueprint item that's do it yourself.
No, okay.
I want to do it myself. That's a total blueprint item. And it's a good one. So if you're feeling kind of called to doing it on your own, oh, I'm frozen again. Sorry
No,
about
you're
that.
good.
You're
Yeah,
good.
Okay. If you're feeling called to do it on your own, start exploring this why, where, when, how, who kind of a thing, and keep track. Keep a list
right.
of what you're finding. And once you find that list, if you're like, I can't make heads or tails of it, then do a practitioner thing. Get on blueprintprocess.com and look at some of those practitioners, because we'll step in and help at any point. It's not like you have to start with us from the beginning. It's a valid study no matter what, and you will find things immediately. The challenges, there are two challenges doing it on your own. I'm just going to tell you, I'm just going to be honest, but it's good for you to know this, but you can work around it. One challenge with doing it on your own is you can't see the forest for the trees. You're so close to yourself that you can't see your natural and admire it. Those are the two problems. You can, you're so close, you can't see what's natural to you and admire it simultaneously. Your natural, what comes naturally to you? That's what we're looking for. What comes naturally to you is God actually working in you. Remember, Jesus said, why do you call me good? I was joking to someone earlier that my voice is actually the voice of God. I was
Okay.
joking, but the point was true, and that all of us are. All of us represent him in unique ways. And so what's natural in you is the best you have to offer. It is the God that is within you.
It's interesting how it comes out. I mean, you made the comment about you may not even know it.
Yeah.
And I loved it when I was first starting to do this and people would ask me questions. So why did you do it that way? I'm like, because it was the right thing to do. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it was just, and that was one of the challenges for Lori is getting out of my head, why did you do that? I don't know. So then you get down so that we could actually train how to do it as opposed to just, well, it was the right thing to do. But that's as you identify, as I think that's something that people need to understand it as they identify things that they're doing and they know it's comfortable and they know, I mean, and they don't really know why. That's probably a sign that that's something they should be doing. I mean, if it's a natural.
Yes. Yes, exactly right. That is a sign. And typically, let's just self-assess here for a moment. Ask yourself that the last time someone complimented you on something, what did you tend to do?
Yeah,
It's
that's
just who I
nothing.
am. Yeah, it's nothing. Everyone does that. That's the one I hear a lot. Everyone does that.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
One of the other things I want to go back to, because we've Doug Carter used to teach us in our things when he was teaching with us a lot. He used to put up, and see how this fits with you. He used to put up like a pizza, okay, with a little slice of the pizza. And he said, all of us are made up of a great many strengths and a few misperceived weaknesses. But too often we focus on the weaknesses instead of the strengths. And he said, if you think about it and you focus on the weaknesses, then you may get, mediocre at things you're not good at. As opposed to if you focus on the strengths, that stuff just kind of disappears over time. And I love that analogy, the way
Very
you
well said.
said it. And I think that you're just reinforcing that as we're going on here, and it goes back to the reticular activating system. Focus on what you're good at. I mean, focus on what you're made to do.
Yeah.
And you'll know what that is without analyzing it. It's just what you're good at and you're comfortable with.
Hey, Rod, I think I have
Absolutely.
fixed the Joel mute problem. I think he's on the call if you want him to walk through anything that he's done with Tammy.
All right,
Joel, are
Joel.
you there?
I am here.
Oh, there we go. So,
No, now I actually am driving down the road.
so can you just take a few minutes and you're the one that contacted me and said, okay, you need to talk to her, and here's why. Can you just describe a little bit about what the impact has been on you and your practice and your kids? I
Well,
mean, all goes together.
yeah, I would say it's everything really. The biggest thing, I never thought I'd do this, first of all. So I have to credit my son, Colton. We were at a conference that I attended before Colton did, where I knew Tammy, but it was after the next two sessions, and we were having the little confab before we went home and deciding what we would take from the conference. And the first thing Colton said was that he wanted to work with Tammy. So he's the one that kind of got us started, and that really started, I think, in 2019.
Okay.
So we've been through, both of us have been through her blueprint process. Where we did the weekly, I guess. I don't even remember it that well, but I talk to her every month now.
Okay.
And the thing it's done the most for me is to just give me an extreme amount of confidence, I guess, and what it is that I'm here for. It's enhanced, I think, my family relationships, with COVID and everything else, that's really what I've been focused on. I was lucky enough to be able to do so, but I just really haven't worried about business up until, this past year.
Right.
I was just really focused on our family. And since 2019 is also the year when all three of my children got married. So
that's a full year.
Right into my plan. I've got 5 grand. Yeah, well, it was a great year and lots of great memories. But I have 5 grandchildren now, so I guess they're following my dream.
Yeah, and that is one thing that I think Lori and I can attest to is when you first came into the program and stuff, one of your dreams was that your kids were going to be in your business, but neither one of them would ever want to do that. Are they both in the business now? Or two of them anyway? I think we lost him.
Oh, I think so too.
I think so too. Okay. Anyway, so now you know how we got to you, Tammy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. I actually had not heard that story before. So I can answer the question. Actually, Colton, Colton that he was. Oh, there's Joel.
Okay. Are y'all actually seeing me?
We can hear you. Yes.
Okay. No, I was just to say that from the family.
Oh, you're breaking
breaking
up.
up. That's not working out. Okay.
All right. We'll have Tammy finish the story if that's okay.
All right.
Thank you for joining us.
She knows it all better.
Okay. Thank you, Joel.
Technology is wonderful when it works. But yeah, I mean, when we started, that was one of his things, and he wanted to have the right team. He wanted to have his dream team.
Yeah.
And I think if you talk to him now, he's done it. I mean, he's where he wants to be and having a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And a lot of it I know is because of the work that he's done through the Heritage Institute. Absolutely. I knew about the Heritage Institute when I first started working with him, which has probably been 4 or 5 years ago now. And it's been so fun for me to watch him put into place, or rather to watch things fall into place that he had perceived and longed for all those years ago. It's been amazing.
Yeah, that was probably what, Lori, 2014, 15? When he made that comment. Yeah. Yeah. So cool stuff. All right.
And they're both actually, so I work with both Colton and Joel, and they're both in the Misfit program. So I meet with them twice a month. And actually the three of us meet once a month to put together messaging that uses aspects of their blueprint so they can put them out and reach their community. And it's super fun. And as we're doing this, I'm working with each of them separately as well. And we're also identifying, because of their blueprint, we're identifying new things. This is the thing with entrepreneurs. It's why I love working with entrepreneurs. They're always thinking, what next? What next? What next?
Right.
And so it's super fun to assess that question through the lens of the blueprint. You know, you and I did a podcast a while ago about focus. And I love this aspect of blueprint. Blueprint takes all that you could do, all that you could be, and all the people that you could work with, and it narrows it down. And so, like Joel said, you gain greater confidence. Every step you take, you get greater and greater confidence. This is who I am. This is why I'm here. And you stop saying yes to everyone and everything, which, as you can imagine, you probably all feel it, pulls you, you know, like you're Gumby and you're being pulled in all these different directions, which causes, if you were to stretch Gumby out, his color, I think it's green, would get paler and paler and paler. That's the idea of blueprint. Let's snap you back to your original God design. So you're that bright green and you can stand up strong so your people can see you and you can achieve your cause.
So put this into like layman's language, because we've talked about this a lot. You know, a lot of times when you're talking to people and it's, you know, so what are you good at? Okay. What are you good at that you love to do? I mean, so like when we're talking to, even when we were talking to some of our staff, okay, what are those things you love to do? What are those things you will do? And what are those things you don't want to do? Right.
Yeah.
And so there's sometimes that we're good at something. I mean, just naturally good at something, but it's not something that you love to do.
Yep.
And you end up doing it.
Yep, absolutely. And I would suggest you're not naturally good at it, because the things that you're naturally good at, you'll also love to do.
Love to do, yeah.
God's a freaking genius.
Yeah.
He knows that if he's giving you stuff to do, he doesn't want to have to constantly cattle prod you to do it.
Right.
So he tacks on there the desire to do it. So you're bringing up a very good question, and you're super smart to do this with your team, because it's a quick question. Okay, here are all the things that we could do in our office, all the activities that are absolutely necessary for us to do on a day-to-day basis. Out of all of this, rank it on a scale of 0 to 5, 5 being something you really like to do, and it brings you energy to do it. Those 4s and 5s will represent to you how God is working in them. So it will also represent to you what they're naturally good at, what they're best at, what their greatest value is, and it will increase team loyalty when you do this.
I'm chuckling because back in the day, those people who know about Jack Beatty was in our organization. Jack actually worked with one of our members who was having some dysfunction and stuff. So Jack went in and interviewed everybody. It was kind of a how we should work together. And he and the owner of the company discovered that out of the owner and I think there were 7 employees, all 8 of them were in the wrong spot. I mean, they were functioning, they were profitable, and all that stuff. But then by being able to say, okay, you know, yeah, you're good at this, and so we're having you do it, but this is where you really, you know, this is what you really want to do, and shifting in the right spot, they just went off chart, you know. But he said it took somebody from the outside to help them to say, okay, is this something yeah, I know you're good at it, but is this something you really love to do? Well, no, but we got to have it done. You know? Okay, that's probably not the right answer for a passion.
Right. Absolutely right. So well said. And I get it. We're busy, you know, we've this stuff needs to get done. Who's going to do it? So then you have a well-meaning individual on your team going, oh, I'll do it. Pretty soon they're doing a lot of stuff that they don't like to do just because they've got a good heart. They too need to be asked the question, why do you want to help? When do you want to help? How do you want to help? So I really like this. This is something that you guys can do. And not just you guys at Heritage, but all of you listening. If you have a team, even in your house with your kids and the chores that need to be done, make a list, an exhaustive list, and get their help. Help me. Let's make a list together. What are all the tasks that need to be done? Because I'm sure I'm not aware of all of them. What are all the things that need to be done, from cleaning out the cat litter to emptying the dishwasher? All the things that need to be done. Each person has a different colored marker on a big, massive dry erase board or piece of butcher paper, have everybody go through and put a mark next to things that they are really interested in doing and recreate job descriptions around that. And you can get more specific than I just suggested. You can do the ranking.
Right.
And with their markers, they're putting on a scale of 0 to 5, 5 being something that would actually thrill them to do. They'd actually really like doing it. And try to start first. Once everybody goes through with the ranking, start by giving everybody their 4s and 5s. You're going to have people that want the same thing, right? That put a 4 or 5 next to the same thing. So you're smart. You can figure it out. Ideally, every person's job description will have mostly 4s and 5s, a few 3s, and maybe 1, 2, but no 1s. Do the best you can to not put out the 1s. It just depends on your organization. The other thing that's really smart about that is when you see the list of 3s, 2s, and 1s that consistently get that ranking from all your team members, there's your new hire.
Right. Yeah, that's how you
Or
feel.
outsourced.
Or outsourced. Yeah. Well, and it works the same way. I mean, Lori and I just had a conversation a few minutes ago with a family that we'd done a family alignment milestone, and it's the who does what by when, as we had the projects that were out there. And when we went through it and opened it up and who wants to do that, there were volunteers for things that I don't think the parents would have thought that's what they would have done. I think the parents would have said, so-and-so should do this and so-and-so should do that because that's what they're good at. And so this goes beyond just us. I mean, this whole concept goes to the clients we're working with, the families we're working with, because if you can open that up and I'll use one really quick example. I had one family, there was one son who kind of felt like he was different than everybody else. And, and when we did the Stratton, everybody in the family was way up in the persuader. They're all really spontaneous, really challenging and all that stuff. He is as far down in the analyzer thing as you can get. And all of a sudden he looked and he goes, okay, I'm not weird. No. That's just who I am. And everybody said, when we had the calls before, and so at the very end, we say, what are you going to do differently tomorrow because of what you learned today, kind of thing? Everybody most of them they fired something off. He's the last one to speak. It was amazing what he said. And his sister goes, wow, that was so eloquent. He goes, yeah, I thought before I started talking. And all of a sudden he owned it, that this is who I am and that's okay.
Oh,
and,
wow.
When we went to leave and I asked the dad, I said, so how'd it go? And he goes, that last 5 minutes was worth the whole thing.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, just for him to understand this is who you are.
Right.
Be that person.
Yes, absolutely. Everywhere. And that comes right back to what we're talking about today. Every single person on this planet, even the person standing out on the corner holding a sign, has a purpose. They have a reason for being here. So looking at your kids that way, whoa. Yeah. Because then the question is, I wonder what it is.
Right.
And you start listening to them differently. I had a client just this morning. He was confessing to me that he felt bad because he had an opportunity to use his purpose with a teammate because the teammate didn't do what she should have done. And he noticed that he was so frustrated that he didn't use his purpose, right? We all do that, myself included. When you remind yourself, when you know your purpose, just like that kid, you become certain about it and you stand upon it. Your light shines brighter. It is God shining himself through you. So what we realized in that moment is when he looks, basically what I reminded him to do is to look at his purpose and cause every single day.
Right.
Because then it's in your reticular activating system. And now you're seeing people differently because of it. Because your purpose and cause isn't about shaming people, judging people, making people feel bad. Your purpose and cause is always going to be about making a positive impact, always. Now, did she do something wrong? Yes, she did. But he could have told her and talked to her about that through the lens of his purpose, and it actually would have been much more effective.
For both of them, yeah.
Yeah. And
Hey,
honestly,
Tammi, go ahead.
Oh, no,
I was just going to say, there's a question that came in, so finish your thought.
Okay, just real quick. When you do that as an employer with your team, it can actually cause people to step out. that's the beautiful thing about shining your light and shining in a very focused way. People who are not meant to receive that, they see it, they feel it, and they go look for another job, or they look for a different financial strategist, whatever.
Yeah.
Lori, what's your question?
Yeah, so a question came in. You had talked about marketing and using the blueprint to create marketing messages. Can you go into that a little bit, is what the question asked?
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite things because as I mentioned earlier, without messaging, our purpose isn't getting out there. It's just restricted to the people that are in our lives currently. And even just for the technical issue of wanting more clients, we've got to be messaging. But typically, messaging is what I refer to as peanut butter. It's straight peanut butter, meaning like you imagine when you're eating straight peanut butter, it's like, it's very hard to digest it. It's very hard to get it down. So what we do in Blueprint is we incorporate something from your blueprint as well. And we refer to it as a peanut butter jelly sandwich. So the peanut butter is your industry, the jam is something from your blueprint, and the bread is usually a story or an analogy. And in the middle, this is probably the most important part, in the middle is not an ask, but a give. So the idea is typical marketing does suggest that you give something, but it's typically behind a paywall or after you give me your email. So it's not really a gift. You give to me first, and then I'll give to you. Give me your email, and then you can come to this webinar or whatever. So what we want to do instead is we create messages based on this peanut butter and jelly triangle with the gift in the center, so that you're in your brain, the objective of the message now is the gift. And I can do a whole nother thing on this if you'd like. I can show you how to do it. In fact, this would be a super fun workshop to do if you guys want, where people can type in or interact, whatever. We can do a meeting format, whatever, so Rod can see everybody's faces. Where you can bring me something from your blueprint and I can help you do a PB&J. I can show you what I mean, because that's really where the rubber hits the road, is being able to see one of these puppies in action. If you go look on my YouTube or Blueprint Process, whatever, you'll see PB&J, but it won't make a lot of sense because you won't see the actual workings behind the video.
How you got there, yeah.
Right, exactly. But the idea is that you do equal pieces. So peanut butter is answering the question, how do I help people with this issue? You know, product, service, whatever. Jam, once again, is something from your blueprint, which I can help you do even if I don't know your blueprint. And then story, analogy, example, something. So that creates this entire yummy sandwich for your people. So your people aren't having to chomp on a bunch of peanut butter, which, by the way, tastes exactly the same as everybody else's out there. You add in some jam and now you're one of a kind. You're starting to show me how you're one of a kind. But please, in the meantime, please, financial advisors, don't use the words control or freedom. Please, I'm begging you. Right.
You just made a point, though. I think we always want to make, we also make with collaboration with people. A lot of times we collaborate to get something for ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, I collaborate. I want to collaborate with this attorney because they have really good clients.
Yes.
And Ryan did a whole workshop on this and a paper on this, and it's like, don't ask for anything until you've given something. Once you've given value to them, now you can ask for value from them.
Yeah.
But too often, we're in it for what's in it for us.
Yeah.
And that's not really collaboration. But anyway, that's
good
side.
Good point. But another point to that is don't collaborate with people who aren't your people.
Right. Right.
Because even if they do have an awesome list that you're hoping to gain visibility through, which technically that's okay. But if you're using if you're trying to gain visibility to a list of someone who isn't your person, most likely the bulk of those people are not going to be your people either. Massive waste of time.
Right.
One last thing about the awesomeness of PB&J messaging is the message acts as a filter by itself. You don't have to filter.
Right.
As long as you're putting out these messages, if people are coming to you through the message or a webinar you're doing, a speaking event, content on your website, you do PB&Js everywhere. That way, when someone actually comes knocking, as long as they've come through one of those messages, you can trust that they're your people.
Right.
Otherwise, they wouldn't have been attracted.
They wouldn't have come in the first place. They wouldn't have responded. Yeah.
Right.
Lori, how much time do you need for the close?
Just a minute or two.
Okay, so I had one more thing, that ties into that. When I was getting out of my practice, and so I had all these clients that I needed to filter out. There were three estate planning attorneys who I knew who were really all off the chart, phenomenal estate planning attorneys. And they got three completely different groups of people from me. Because, the way I've passed them off was one of them was Eden. And when I asked her, what are your demographics and all that kind of stuff, her first thing was, my clients need to be huggable.
Oh.
You don't hear that from a lot of attorneys.
No.
I mean, that's not, that's not a filter for a lot of attorneys. It was really easy to figure out who of my clients needed to go see Eden.
I love that. Good for her.
Yeah. I mean, but that's a filter you don't see very often on a, an attorney.
Yep.
So.
Absolutely. And each of us have that. That's the crazy thing. It's what is most natural within us. That's our filter. And if we keep putting that out, then we're going to attract the right people.
And you hit it earlier, and I think I want to say it again. I was talking to somebody who that's what they do is marketing, and they said good marketing will attract the people you want and repel people you don't.
Yeah.
There's both sides to that.
Yes. Yes.
So.
Yeah. And I would say it's not even as harsh as repelling. It's just disinterest.
Yeah. Just bores them.
Yeah. They're clearly not for me. I'm going to move on. And that's what we want. We want to enact the magnetic pull.
Right.
And if someone doesn't feel magnetically pulled to us, they'll go elsewhere.
We are coming to the top of the hour. Thank you so much, Tammi. Jam-packed with great gems. We appreciate you very much. This was our first event of 2024, and happy that you were here to kick it off with us. Remember, everybody who is on the recording here, we are accepting applications for our Heritage Design Professionals Coaching Program for 2024. That kicks off. Contact us if you want more information about its schedule and all of that. Also, check out our website for the calendar.
So thank you, Tammi.
And thank you, everyone, for being here. And we'll see you at our next Expand Your Practice.